Hi, everyone. Sorry, Erica. We're just a few minutes past 5:30, so I think it'd be good to get started, so we're not here until too late. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge that we're here today in the lands of the Wovoka and Wormai people, and I'd like to pay my respects to elders past and present, and also actually thank two beautiful Aboriginal ladies who saved me yesterday in Sydney Central from a mob of very scary people carrying Australian flags. It was a very, very scary moment in my 24 years in Australia. And thankfully, there was two Aboriginal ladies there with their flags in the T-shirts and said, "We welcome you, but we don't like them." So I thought that was a beautiful moment that I got to experience yesterday. Yes, and I'd like to really, if there is anyone in this room who is Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander, I'd like to extend my respect for letting us use this land, which was always a place of learning and has never been ceded. So today we're here for a HunterWiSE network event. Every year we have an event that is specifically designed for teachers. And we've got Sam Chiswell here from Carnegie Christian School in Tamworth. We've got Sarah Kerridge from Hunter School of Performing Arts, Bert Verhoeven there from the university, and then we've got Karen Blackmore and myself. We are two of the founding members of HunterWiSE. So one by one, we will talk to you today. I think most people here are familiar with HunterWiSE, but just very quickly, we are a group of female academics at the University of Newcastle who started these. There's 4 out of the 7 who started over here. And we have a range of initiatives trying to encourage women into STEM, broadly understood. And we also have a range of initiatives designed to keep them in STEM once they make it there. So that's broadly what we do in HunterWiSE. So the topic for today is perception, opportunities, and practical applications of generative AI in the learning environment. So we've got a range of people from schools and from the university, and we're just going to hopefully tell you something that you don't know yet. I asked Sam, who is one of our resident experts in all things AI. I said, "Sam, can you just send me some research here, please? What's the state of AI? What do students at the university, what do they use it for?" And so he sent me more studies than this one, I have to say. It sent me a lot. But I just sort of read the three main ones. One is from the UK, and it's over 1,200 students. Another one from the US, over 1,000 students. And then ours here at the University of Newcastle, which is the largest one, was surveyed of over 8,000 students and asked them what they use it for, essentially, and what are their concerns. And the key findings of all these studies, really, if you put them together, you can actually put all the studies together in ChatGPT and tell it to give you a summary, but I didn't do that. Students embrace AI they seek clear, fair, and practical support from staff. I would assume if you ask this in high schools, it'd be exactly the same. The concerns are misinformation, data privacy, employability when they've used it, and over-reliance on AI. I don't know if these concerns would be the same for high school students, because I don't know if they are that meta-cognitive. Some of them may be. But yeah, they are concerned that people who over-rely on AI may not be developing good critical thinking, for example. I think Bert has something to say about that one. So when they were asked, what have you used it for? And this is an interesting one. This is the okay one. You could see what they thought in 2024 in green and in 2025 in blue. The shift is incredible in just 1 year. But if you look 2 years ago, and probably the data that we will collect next year is going to be like 2 different planets. This is moving so fast. So for generating text, right? Look at that, 30% of the students in 2024, 64% in 2025, right? Like this is shifting. Enhancing and editing your writing, summarizing, note-taking, you can see it there. So there's a number of things that they use it for. And the most prominent tools are ChatGPT, Copilot, and Grammarly. The next question is, have you used it for assessment? Because I think this is the key here, right? Whether they use it for assessment and how. So to explain concepts, I found that quite interesting, that students get AI to not so much to write it for them, or at least they don't admit to that. Although I think they do admit it because they are anonymous. But to explain concepts, to summarize relevant articles. And let's face it, I think we all do that now, right? You've got a very long piece of text and just like, can you give me a summary, please? So that's another one that the students use it for. Suggest research ideas. There is when I start getting a little bit worried that this is what they're using it for, but sometimes it's good to structure their thoughts, right? Nothing in 2024, almost 40% of the students in 2025. So there's a few other things there. What do they use it for? For accessibility. For students, for example, that have a disability or they are neurodiverse or international students, for accessing information, they use some tools that I don't even know. Googling, I don't know what this one is. Grammarly and Google Translate. Collaboration, Grammarly Go, Kel, Mint, Set. That's interesting. Research, Scholarly, Elicit, Zotero, and ChatGPT. And then there's some of them that are subject specific for, like say creative art students may use something called Midjourney or Adobe for Design. They are tools that are specific for creation. Or computer students, they may use GitHub for coding, right? So they are sort of specific to that area. And this is me, I'm done. Students want to be partners in AI integration, not passive users. This is something they are saying to us at universities, and they value human connection and personalized feedback alongside feedback that they may get with AI. So that is me, and I think Sam is next. We're recording, I think, so probably a good idea.
While I'm mic'd up, thank you. Thanks, Selena. Just while I put this on, I'm from Tamworth. I was here at Bishop Cyril with these guys 4 years ago. We moved there for a tree change with our 3 daughters, which has been fun. We got some chickens and some fruit trees, bit of space. Get this on. Can I just tuck that there? Collar.
Just pinched it to my jumper.
There we go. How's that? All good. Nice. And I'm really excited to just share what we've been doing with AI in terms of using it in marking and feedback. So I love the potential for AI to reduce the administrative load on teachers. I think we all sign up for teaching with an idea of what it will be like, and then we find out it's a desk job, and that's soul crushing. But I think we're coming into an age where it's no longer a desk job. It's actually, what teaching could be. And so I want to talk about what marking and feedback with AI looks like. And I want to just show you a demonstration of what that looks like in terms of screenshots, so you can see what the end goal is. So this is a scan of a redacted assessment task that we did with Year 9 on heats of combustion. I upload it with a marking prompt. This is a locked down version of Google Gemini for Workspace, so the data is secure. And after a minute and a half, it generates an output with marks, feedback comments, and an overall achievement table. It's about 30 seconds per task, so that was a scan with 3 tasks in it. Took a minute and a half. It's about 5 minutes if you want to do 10 at a time. Obviously, it needs checking. You're not just going to print that out and give it to the students. But you can see the level of feedback that they get is so specific, so tailored. And it does a lot of that data handling down the bottom as well. So I want to show you how we got to that point. That looks like the golden bullet. That's the end of marking, but there's hours before this. But if you set it up, it's quite scalable. And we've been doing it for years 7 to 10 all year at our school for all our assessment tasks. So you might have watched that and gone, wow, sign me up. I want to know how to do it. You might have watched it and gone, I have a few reservations, and that's totally fair. I think there's some really good objections to using AI for marking. The first one is, will I still know where my students are up to in their learning? And I think like any technology in teaching, it boils down to the user. There's lazy ways to do anything in teaching. And you can just feed them through, spit it out, print it, give it back to the students, and of course you won't have an idea. But if you're doing it professionally, checking them, making sure that it's fully correct before you give it back, I actually think using AI in reflection has the potential to make it even more, give you even more of an understanding of where your whole cohort is at, because you can reflect at scale at like 80 exams at once. And student privacy is the other really valid question. And that depends on which AI you're using, what your school has access to, whether that's New South Wales EduChat, or we use Gemini that's restricted to, well, my IT manager assures me it's restricted to our intranet. But if you don't have access to something that protects that data, then you definitely need to be de-identifying student work. We have an obligation to do that. So redacting it, or what we did when we first started using it was giving them student numbers separate to their NESA student numbers that we came up with, and doing it that way. You might have other objections. There'll be a Q&A later, and you can grill me then. I'd love to hear it. But I think there's a few key benefits why you might do this. The detailed feedback is the reason that we've stuck with it all year. There's lots of really specific and actionable feedback that students get that they wouldn't just get from a tick and flick look through, particularly for an exam type task. It does save some time. Like I said, it's not the golden bullet. It saves you time if you're not the person setting it up. So if you've got 3 teachers on a year group, the person setting it up does probably the same amount of work as if they'd marked it manually. Everyone else, it's probably a time saving of 50%. So it's, if you're saving 10 hours per task, it adds up very quickly, particularly for larger cohorts. So it does save some time, and it's more consistent. Like pilot marking only goes so far. If you're feeding it the same marking prompt, the same marking rubric every time, then you end up with this really consistent grading process across 80, 90, 150 papers. And it also helps teacher reflection. So at the end, you can feed that through in a different chat and pull out some key trends and analyze that. Because the last thing I feel like doing after 5 hours of marking is sifting back through and looking for the patterns. This actually makes it fun and allows that assessment to feed forward into teaching practice. So before you even touch AI, the first question you've got to ask is this task actually going to be suited to AI marking? I think it's really important that we don't let AI drive how we assess students. It's not going to work for every task. And there might be assessment tasks that you love that AI just will not work for. And so that's fine. Leave it alone. I don't think we need to use it for everything. Highly structured factual responses like science exams or maths tests, AI eats it up. But You might not do it for an English task or, sorry, Sarah, or for a video or a PowerPoint presentation or even a poster. It will struggle with those visual type tasks. And you don't want to necessarily take those out of the assessment schedule. So you've got to start with that question. Will it work, or am I shoehorning AI into this? And is it going to wreck the task? And then you've got to think about, is your task actually clearly formatted? So numbering everything, giving the AI lots of signposts to make sure it doesn't get lost as it goes through. So really structured tasks, it suits quite well. Your marking rubric that you can use is, you can just use the existing one that your faculty has, and it does really well with what you see in like HSC examinations. So the table format with examples and non-examples, that's really, really good. The more specific you can be and the more you can stipulate where half marks are allowable or not allowable, the better the AI will go with marking your task. So if you've thought about all that and you decide to go for it, you can then start to engineer a prompt. And if you're at an AI event, I assume you know what a prompt is. It's a set of instructions that gives AI like a persona or a voice that you want it to follow, set of rules and the output that you want. And so you can see on the tables there is this document. This is an example of what it might look like. We use this for the heats of combustion task. And you can take that template and you can use it. It's got all of these rules and these framings that we use that we've found works for us. So the first thing that you want to teach it is the context and purpose. So you say you're a high school science teacher in Australia, so use UK spelling. You avoid all those pesky Zs popping up throughout. And then specific and actionable feedback. You actually want the students to be able to do something about it next time. So that actionable is quite important. And if you don't put constructive and encouraging, it'll just smash them with constructive feedback and destroy their souls. So you want to like encourage them as well. So you give that in the context and purpose. Your task is not just to give feedback, it's to also help them have confidence. After that, you've got your output. So we like to use a table output. And so we have an example table. We've got question number, the feedback sentence, the marks available and the marks received. And that just means it's consistent between students once it puts it out. And then one thing AI does really well is takes marks from different sections and adds them up. So that checkbox stuff that's usually really tedious, it will go through and go, okay, well, knowledge and understanding with these 2 questions, processing and communicating with these 3 questions, and it'll assign them to the outcomes and then chuck in a performance level descriptor to save you all of that. And that way we can just copy this column, put it into our faculty mark book and job done. Obviously there's checking involved, but that saves a lot of page flipping. It's really good. And then the overall statement is for the kids who don't want to read 2 pages of feedback, they flick to that and that tells them what they did well, what they need to work on, and then the next steps for them to take. So there's some general rules. We call them the 14 commandments for marking and feedback, and we've developed them over about 8 months, just trial and error, tweaking things here and there. I won't go through all of them one by one, but they all have a story attached to them. Some of the highlights in there, you know, if they leave it blank, don't hallucinate in the correct answer, mark it as incorrect. That was something it was doing. Don't confuse student responses with each other. Treat each student individually. Make sure that you're only evaluating based on the marking criteria. Make sure your sentences, your feedback sentences are brief. You're not giving a paragraph for every question. So these rules are in that template that you've got, but it just keeps it with a recognizable voice and allows you to also do things that your school might have preferences for. So our school likes to have a focus on improvement rather than getting full marks. And so we've explicitly told the AI, don't use the phrase to get full marks, instead to improve or to further your understanding. So stylistic choices can go in there as well. And then underneath you would put your marking rubric. And that way it's all in the one document. Using a document like this allows you to collaborate with other people. And once all the staff are happy with it, that's kind of like pilot marking, then you can run your tasks through. So this is what it looks like running them through. This is kind of a longer version of what I showed you before. So in this scan, I've got a top, a low, and a middle in that order. And I like to tell it how many tasks it's got so that it knows that it's looking for one after the other. You can upload them as separate scans as well. And if you're doing 10 at a time, it'll take longer, but you can navigate away and be formatting and tidying up the others while you go. Now this isn't the final point. After this point, you've definitely got to check it. So we like to export to Google Docs. So there's a little button down here which will bring it up in a Google Doc, which is friendly for printing. And then we make sure that it fits on a few double-sided pages. So for year 7 and 8, we aim for 1 double-sided page. For year 9 and 10, we've got 2 double-sided pages of feedback. And that's the point where you would be checking with the hard copy. So it probably takes still 5 to 10 minutes per student paper to check it thoroughly. And we're upfront with students about this as well. They can tell the feedback looks different. And so we say we've co-marked this with AI. And that's the language that we use. We've co-marked it because our policy is that human eyes have to have seen every response. We don't want to just be pumping them through and then printing. And so that's holding us accountable as well as teachers, because we know that the students will be scouring these for mistakes. And we want to be really sure it's 100% correct. Once it's correct, we print it off, we return it to them, we go through it as a class. And they do need some training in how to read this type of feedback because they've got to match it up with the question on the paper. But we find it, students actually prefer the AI marked tasks when we've done straw polls. We also use it to reflect, so you can feed through that feedback document in a separate chat and say, give me an analysis of this class. Key strengths can be pulled out. So for this task, one of the key strengths was calculations using Q equals MCAT. I was like, great, we spent 2 weeks on it in class. I hope something sunk in. And then some areas for development. So one thing they did poorly in this one was using data for analysis and citing the numbers in their conclusions. And that is something that I noticed when I went through as well. And so what you can do is then think about, with follow-up questions, what can I be doing to target these areas? And one suggestion was, well, give some explicit instruction on using data as evidence or model that skill. And then you can ask further questions like, what's an engaging data set for year 9 science students to teach them to use numbers in their conclusions? So this is where it's really powerful. And I think if you didn't want to bother with the marking side of things, just using it for reflection is a super, super useful tool, because that's often the thing we don't have headspace for at the end of marking a large cohort. Some other things you might like to try, just hybrid model. So hand marking or manual marking the things that you know AI won't cope with, whether that's extended response or diagrams or graphs, and then AI marking the rest. You could voice type and then use AI to tidy up your feedback. Sarah, you said you do that, something like that. I did that for my year 11 tasks this year, and that was really helpful. And reflecting at scale. So not using AI for the marking component, but just the reflection. That could be really powerful too. So coming back to what I said at the start, I think shifting that administrative burden away from teachers so we can have the headspace to focus on the students in front of us, that would be the best outcome for AI. I think bringing back the people aspect of our job would be awesome. And if using it for this helps, then go for it. If you found these prompts or that template helpful, I've also put together a course with the Science and Engineering Challenge. And so that's a free course for teachers, but there's just some PDFs you can download and you can copy and paste those prompts if they help. I don't get paid if you sign up for that. It's just, no, that's fine. But if it's helpful for you, go for it. Use that QR code to register and get those resources. Thanks.
question time after, is there?
Yes, I can. Yeah, I think that's great.
Okay. I want to start by saying, well, first, my name's Sarah. I teach English at the Hunter School of Performing Arts, and I think that's a really important clarification to make, that I am an English teacher. I'm not a STEM teacher. I don't come from a coding background. I'm not a scientist. I don't particularly enjoy mathematics. I'm not very good on tech, as I'm sorry. My boys are though. I don't particularly know much about tech. However, AI came across, obviously, my vision, as many other teachers, in the media, first and foremost, kind of scared about what it meant for, one, for my job. Was I going to be extinct? And two, for what it meant for my students and their writing, and how I was going to be able to tell if what they were producing was actually authentic work. And so I really started in this kind of space as a little bit of a kind of a fear, and then that kind of turned into curious. And that's kind of been evolving over the last few years. That initial anxiety, I guess, for what AI means in our world has definitely changed now. And I would like to hope that I have a much more positive outlook on what it can mean for us and our students, and for us as teachers and educators. First and foremost, to make sense of AI, I wasn't alone. At HSPA, where I work, we formed a team called the RAY team, a nice little acronym as an English teacher, Research Artificial Intelligence Development Team. And this started very much so from a kind of senior executive level, okay? Without that support of our senior executive, we wouldn't be able to get any of our policies across. We wouldn't get the teachers and educators on board with what we were doing. We wouldn't have the community and the parents okay with us addressing AI. And I think if you are a teacher sitting in this room right now and you're going, how am I going to get this into my school? The very first place that you need to start is with that executive team. Unless you have someone who's going to support you and listen to you, you're not going to make any progress. Yeah, I can't say enough about that. The RAY team started with a very small kind of group of teachers across all faculties. As I said, I'm an English teacher. We have generalists in there. We have STEM teachers in there. We have students for a music teacher in there. It was very much started from teachers who just kind of had this interest in what artificial intelligence actually was. And then from this, we kind of started looking at those kind of key questions. What does AI mean for us as educators? And then how do we prepare our students for a world where AI actually exists? We're lucky that we get to meet each fortnight, and we have kind of an hour and a half long meeting where we kind of go through any new innovations. So kind of the first 20 minutes is very much kind of where we geek out on any new technology that's come about, sharing things that we might have come across in, any of the multiple subscriptions for AI tech newsletters. And usually someone has something new to kind of share there. We then usually discuss anything that's come up within our faculties around AI. And that could be things from a particular task where someone has used it, or we think they might have used it, addressing what students' concerns may have been, any discussions we've kind of overheard, but also then exploring ways that we can consider how we can use AI and the new technology within our actual learning with our students. One of the really important things about our RAY team was that we wanted to be ahead of the game. We didn't want to be reacting to AI and reacting to students' interpretations of AI. We wanted to be proactive. So we wanted to get our messages out there to students before issues heard. Many schools, I think, are hesitant to address AI in any manner with students. And I think that's where they're failing. I think also teachers stating that they are not tech teachers and that it's not their area is also an issue. We are educators and AI goes across all faculties. It is capable of looking at all of our subjects. So we need to get on board and find out what it is doing so that we are able to educate our students in the right ways. One of the other reasons we created the RAY team was in particular around assessment tasks, okay? Having that concern for students potentially using AI in their take-home tasks and how we were going to find a way to monitor that. So while the idea of an AI detection tool sounds extremely appealing, the data is that they're extremely unreliable, okay? 1 minute you'll get a result saying this is 100% AI from an essay that you've seen a student write in front of you to this is not AI written and it was 100% in front of you a second ago. So we know that we can't use those tools. So what can we do? Do we sit kids in a classroom with a piece of paper and a pen and make them handwrite everything in front of a teacher? No. What are we doing from that? I'm not going to mention the HSC because that's a bit of a hate of mine, but that's not where we're leading our students, okay? We don't want them to be documenting and forcing them to kind of memorize information to then spit it out onto a piece of paper. So how can we get around these things? And these were the questions that we were starting to ask ourselves. Do we want to catch students using AI? No. We wanted to shift to asking, how do we design learning experiences where AI either doesn't undermine the integrity or becomes part of the learning? And so they were our big starting points, very big starting points. Then came about New South Wales EduChat. We were lucky enough to be part of the trial that began in 2024. And so this is running across New South Wales department schools. At the moment, all school teachers have access to this. In our school, students have access to this as we were part of the process. What this means is that students are able to access generative AI within school, okay? That doesn't mean they have free range, but it does mean that we have an opportunity to do so in a safe environment, okay? It also meant that we could begin to incorporate AI into our lessons without those usual risks that come with some of those other platforms. So for us as teachers, that was a really big breakthrough. It meant that we could move AI from being something that students were quietly experimenting with at home or on their little mobile devices or through their hotspots to something that we could actually guide, assess, and then reflect on together in the classroom. So it was very much about bringing that conversation into the room, okay, and making it very, very open and full disclosure. The big things about EduChat was that it was uniquely designed for schools. It is very different from ChatGPT in that it doesn't spit out an answer. It asks prompting questions, okay, to get students thinking without giving them an actual result or an answer or a piece of long extended text. It's transparent in that students can see potentially model answering without it giving them the full responses. It does have safeguards in place, such as profanity filters and content checks. And the benchmark tests that have originally have been going on are showing that it has a 91% score in comparison to some of the free AI platforms that are currently out there. So what this meant for us at our school was that we could start using it in a safe environment and that we knew that we were going to be getting a high quality result with our students. This doesn't mean that we say no to all AI platforms. We know that students potentially use those as well, but it meant that we could have that initial discussion, okay? And that we could start to build those processes around what we could use it for as a tool in our classroom. Some of the things that we've used this particular platform for are for brainstorming ideas with classes. And that could either be a teacher displaying it on the front board or students using it on their own devices. Building structures for writing. We use it for kind of drafting, for grammar, cohesion, engaging in some of those critical tasks, and making sure that when we do begin to experiment with these things, that we have those discussions around the fact that we are using AI. One of the biggest things that we were finding was students were using AI in some way without realizing they were using it. I'm using Grammarly. Grammarly's AI. I used this program to just fix up my spelling and my punctuation. You've just used AI. I've put this search through my Google that happens to be linked to Copilot. That's AI. And so students were not necessarily attempting to break the rules or go against the assessment criteria, but we're still using AI. This meant that we could start to have those conversations openly on what AI looks like and how it is part of so many different programs that they may be using. What this then follows into is a process that we, a scale that we created at HSPA around assessment use in particular. Okay, so now that students have got access to AI, we don't want them to use it on every single task. There are some tasks that absolutely lead themselves to potentially using it to improve, okay, to edit, to clarify, to brainstorm, to create potentially, presentations, little bits and pieces, but it's not for every single task. So how do we easily identify what tasks students can use AI for and what tasks they can't? And how do we limit that in a way to say that maybe Grammarly is okay for this project, but not okay for this project? Maybe you can use EduChat for all of this assignment, but have to reflect on it in this way. And so we came up with this level of use. And so this goes with all of our assessment task notifications. So we start with level 0, which means no AI use at all, okay? And at this stage, depending on what faculty you're in, that might be 60% of your assignments are no AI use. Level 1 means that you can have AI-assisted idea generation and structuring. So that means that you can't have AI content in the final submission, but you may use it, okay, for brainstorming, assisting to create structures, or generating ideas for improving your work. Okay, so that means that you could potentially put your essay, your paragraph into EduChat and say, what do I need to do to improve my paragraph on such and such? And it might say, have you considered looking at your language, the sophistication of your meta language? And so that student could then go back in and have a look at the meta language around that particular task. Okay, it might say that there's a range of spelling mistakes in there. Your sentences are too long, okay? Or going in and saying, this is my essay question, I don't know where to start, okay? Can you help me break it down? What does this word mean? Give me some synonyms, okay? Then moving into AI-assisted editing, okay? So this is where you can make improvements around clarity, and then moving into AI for specific task completion, where there might be elements of a task that you can use it, or full AI use with human oversight. With this, okay, is an agreement with your students. Okay, we have something called a register of receipt when we go through notifications with our students. part of that is that we discuss what level of AI use we are using, okay? If there is an AI use in there, then the teacher is responsible for discussing that level and what that looks like specific to that task. The tasks are also clearly identified with the level colours. So at no stage will a student go, hey, I didn't know I couldn't use AI for this assessment, because it's not only on their notification, it's also colour coded. They also must include citations, okay, in relation to whatever they are using AI for. And at the moment, that looks a little bit different subject to subject, but we're currently working on creating a kind of a template, a little bit like a kind of a learning journal that they will paste prompts in and the responses, okay? And that will have reflection questions as part of that process. Because we're starting to move away from the idea, okay, of using AI specifically just to spit out some text, okay? We're talking about what you have fed it. How have you understood what you need to do, and how, and then kind of what are we actually assessing? If we're just trying to assess how well someone can write an essay, okay, AI is not going to do that. Or it's going to do it too well. So the students, it's of no use using AI for that. But if we're trying to check for an understanding of a particular content point, then there's definitely things that we can use AI for. Okay, challenges. Even though we have EduChat and we have the acceptable use scale, we still had to think about the bigger picture and assessment design. So we knew that AI tools weren't working, they're inconsistent, unreliable. We can't just have those traditional take-home tasks. We also can't have students just sitting in the classroom doing those exams. Okay, so really we started to think about either AI resilient tasks, as we like to call them, which are things like oral presentations. Okay, they can't use AI while they're standing up in front of you, speaking to you. Things like viva voces, in-class debates, reflection journals, where you have to see that student's voice coming through. We then have things called AI considered tasks, which is where we kind of flip that script and students are actually starting to critique or refine their AI outputs. And this is where maybe you might use even in-class tasks where you get, say, sorry, this is my English brain, get it to spit out an essay for you. And then you have the student look at it and say, well, what's wrong with it? What does it need to have added to it? Is that evidence correct? Has it evaluated it? Has it answered the question? Where would you make improvements? How would you scale this based on the rubric? Okay, and so we're using AI as a tool, not as the final product. This has kind of, I guess, changed the way in which we are teaching students about integrating with AI. It's about us saying that it is here, okay, and trying to bring it into the classroom so that we can have the discussions. What we do is not perfect, okay? Whatever we do the first time is never perfect, but it is a process, and it's a process that we're not hiding from. I just want to give you a couple of very quick examples. So an example of when we have, or I have used AI in the classroom, and this is not just EduChat. I have used other AI platforms in the classroom because I am using it as myself, as the teacher, leading the process, monitoring it to students, because I think it's really important that as a teacher, you are also transparent when you are using it. Is for an activity around Macbeth, sorry. So instead of getting students to write an essay like you normally would, we had students try to come up with some song lyrics, okay? So summarizing what happens in the actual play. So students had the choice of either using EduChat or something similar to create the lyrics for them, but then they had to create the music that went with it. They still had to input that information about the different acts. So they had to show us that they knew or had an understanding for the play, or they could write the lyrics themselves and then put it into an AI platform like Suno. And if you don't mind This is a beautiful, lovely little song that was created by my class. It's a worship version because you could choose what type of style you wanted. And I just thought this gave really nice vibes. So this would AI.
In the land of kings and deceit, where good meets evil in dark retreat, Macbeth, a man of twisted fate, his soul lost to a ruthless state. Ambition's fire in his eyes, his moral compass starts to die. Whispers of the witch's spell, leading him to paths of hell. Lady Macbeth, a force so strong, her will to push him all along. To covet power, grasp at might, plunging deep into the night.
You can still use AI platforms within your classroom in kind of a safe environment where the teacher's kind of still in control in some sort of way. Another way, very much again, English-based, is getting students to do a piece of writing, trying to capture a setting or a particular character, and then putting that into an image generator, okay? And what spits out? Is that what they actually pictured? Is that the scene that they had considered in their mind? And if it isn't, why isn't it? What is missing from their writing? What description have they missed out? What can they add to get that picture closer to what they actually visualized? Okay, overall, so I can quickly finish up. Pretty much, I think leaving that question of we can't leave AI behind, we can't ignore it in our classroom, and the powers that be, whoever they may be, are saying that we can't use it in schools or shouldn't use it in schools, is not the way to go. We're educators, we need to make sure that our students are informed, and the best way to do that is to model, to mirror, and go along the journey with them. And if you are willing to do that, I think that your students will be much better prepared for when they leave school, go on to university, and then go into the workforce. Thank you. Would you like the mic? We need the mic because I think we're
So, I don't want to eat too much into our discussion time. Do we have? How long do I have?
I'll give you a 5-minute warning when you're getting close, but you've got about 15 minutes. 15, yeah. I'll just
It's okay, yeah.
alert you.
So last week I was presenting at the Hunter Sports High School to about 100 teachers there. And before I started, at home, I made this video from a picture that I found on their website, just to have a bit of fun, and I hope you enjoy it too. So Hunter School, sports high. But the more interesting thing really is this, because this was happened before I did the second version. So the first version of the video came when I gave it the prompt, Google Gemini VO3, which is fantastic. Use this image as a starting point, then the image comes to life with real life kangaroos and koalas entering the scene. And what then happened the first time was this. So only the second prompt made it correct, right? The second prompt was, do it again. But also do not give koalas a kangaroo tail. Yeah, that's a very important thing to add. what I'm trying to say here is that a lot of you would have tried AI probably and it failed, right, the first time. That I think is a really important point about AI, because it's not perfect yet and it's not good yet. And you see that here. If I would have just said, oh, that's rubbish, I'm not going to show this video, then you would not have learned anything, right? So what I'm trying to say with this starting point is for you all to be aware that AI is not perfect, and it's still very much in the experimentation phase, which we saw with you guys presenting before. This is me. I've been presenting all around the world with my colleagues, and next week I'm going to the University of Oxford. I'm lucky to get to go there and present there at their conference. So it's very exciting, and the reason for that is, this was in the London School of Economics where I've been publishing. The reason for that is in 2023, I did basically what some of you are also starting to do, is I said, oh, I'll make it mandatory for my students to use in my classes. So there's no option for you anymore, and everything we do, we use it. And I did that because I believe AI transforms, is a different paradigm. So for me, what I've learned from 2.5 years is that, and I'm more and more convinced about that, is that the old way we do school doesn't really fit well with AI. And I think we've seen it in the first two presentations. You're all struggling to get it to really work well, right? It's so much work to prompt it well and to get it into, to almost squeeze it into the old paradigm. The old paradigm is just not really well set up for AI. And that's what I want to talk about today in 10 minutes that I have. I don't think I need to talk too much about this, but I wasn't sure how well you are set up for this. So first of all, it uses language that's perfect for English teachers, and I think English teachers will have a golden future with AI. This is number one. I think another thing is, what you need to know is it generates. It doesn't retrieve. It's not a big database where it just retrieves information like Google did. It doesn't really give you the same answer all the time. It gives you different answers all the time, which is really important to realize. Most people don't realize that. They think that if they load anything into Gen AI, then it's in some database and somehow then will be there forever. It doesn't work like that. It trains, it generates, not retrieves. It feels conversational, and it's really quite creative as well. But it also has really limitations, and I don't think we spoke about it today. So no true understanding or reasoning yet. Yeah, it doesn't reason. It doesn't really know what it's reasoning about yet. I would say so. Hallucinates, makes things up. This is difficult with reflection sometimes, and sometimes also with grading. Biases in training and has no lived experience, and I think that's a really important one in our advantage as humans compared to AI. We have a lived experience, and I see that now with my students. After 2.5 years, I see that what they need to do is gain that lived experience. So they need to go out and do experiential learning, and I think that's one of the keys in that new paradigm of education we're building. It can also mislead if it's used uncritically. There's lots of research coming out. MIT is really stamping out lots of research, and often not very good research as well, where they said recently they had that your brain gets damaged. I'm not sure if you've read anything about that. That's sort of the press writes about that. Your brain gets damaged if you use AI. And then if you read the paper, it's a very small research, but it's also they research people who just copy things over from AI. And then your brain gets damaged. And that's what I tell my students as well. If you just copy over from AI, you don't learn anything. You know that as well, right? So we can't do that. Simon Biggs, Vice Chancellor and President of James Cook University, he wrote 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago. I think really this is why I do this. Yeah, it's really well said in the sense that students, 65 students higher education believe that they know more about AI than their instructors, which is a worry for all of us. Yeah, and also it's a student-led adoption. Yeah, and those numbers don't lie, I guess, and they are using it, and my students are using it for everything they do at the moment. And that means that we have to teach them how to do it. If we just let them copy over from AI, again, they don't learn anything. I asked my fellow business school academics when we were all together, and I said, who here is awake at night from the thought of assurance of learning for your students? Can I have anybody hands up here? Who's laying awake at night about the question of assurance of learning for my students? Nobody, no. And I am. I am. I think assurance of learning is really difficult in the age of AI. It's really tough. And it's not, how do we know that students learn what we want them to learn is a really, really difficult question to answer. And I haven't answered it either. This is our new innovation entrepreneurship. I'm a teacher in entrepreneurship and innovation, amongst others. And this is our new program. And we have a course called Prompt Engineering for Innovation. And it's all very much modular. So there's 3 different modules per course. And the whole course is set up as a program. So it's a programmatic approach. I think that's one of the key differences with the old model. Is that in a new education model, we need a programmatic approach. And we need a programmatic approach like medicine has done, for example, for a long time already. Many, 20 years, 25 years, they've been doing that because you teach competencies. And that's another important element, in my view, about the new paradigm of education. It's not just knowledge anymore. It's not just checking if students know something. It's checking if they can apply it as well in the real world, because that's where we're strong. By the way, this was a year and a half. We called this Prompt Engineering for Innovation. I would now not call it like that anymore. It's a bad title. I would say now it's more like co-creating for innovation, collaboration and co-creation for innovation, something like that. That's how fast it goes. Yeah, the development goes very quick, and that makes it hard to keep up. We have an intentional integration, so it's not an add-on. We integrate AI from year 1, 2 to 3, and it's all across the courses, and we build it up from a level as well. So we're not just saying, okay, we do here something and we do there something. It's programmatic. We know we teach a certain competency year 1, a high level in year 2, and a higher level in year 3. Yeah, so I think that's an important thing for you in schools to realize as well. You need that kind of programmatic approach to work well with AI. And then from our experiences, you wrote this article in the AACSB, which is an accreditation body for business schools. Not many business schools have that. We have it here in Newcastle, and they have a blog, and we wrote an article in that, my colleague and I, just a few months ago. And basically what we wrote there was this is our new model and pedagogy for, we call it the human-centric AI first pedagogical framework. And what that means is that you have different domains. Yeah, there's 4 domains, as you can see there. And in the first domain, you work as a teacher with AI. You do your preparation with AI, and then you both have explained a lot of what you do there, right? You design exercises, you design your curriculum, you design all kinds of other things. And you do that in the first area where you as a teacher work with AI. Then there's the personalized learning where students go out and do exercises with AI. They're at home, they can do it 24/7. In our case, they learn skills as well, like creative thinking. They can do an exercise in creative thinking. AI is very good at that. Gives them an exercise, they do creative thinking, then AI gives them feedback on the exercise and then measures also what level they're at. And then the next step would be for them to do another exercise, which is either simpler or more difficult for the students to do. Again, it's a very much using AI to help students learn at the level where they're at. So it becomes personalized learning in that second domain. And then the third domain is in the class where it's like us. We together, we want humans, we want that connection, right? We want to learn, we want to talk to each other. You do already oral, and you as well, right? And that is what happens here. This is where you're the coach and you provide feedback and you do peer reviews and reflections and planning. And I've seen you both talking about that today. It's really good. I really like to see that. I'm very happy to hear that. And then the last one is some of the assessment that you have described as well. I think mostly will become authentic, experiential learning driven. You need to turn your English class into experiential learning. And that's the next step. So you can do Macbeth, or you can do To Kill a Mockingbird, and you say to your students, these are the social issues in there. Let's find them around us here, right? And let's then write about it, and let's investigate it, and let's then, etc. So you turn everything that you do into an experiential learning, real life applied, and then it's about, obviously, it's not as easy for AI to go outside and do that work, right? So that's something the students need to do still. They need to talk to people. They need to learn how to do that and ask the right questions. Also, you need to, and you said it as well, you need to really look at the process of learning. So what do students do with AI? They need to provide you evidence of that. It can be in Google versions of document versions or prompts or etc. So you need to have the evidence of the process of learning, and we are developing a platform for that, because I now find after 2.5 years that I need a platform to be able to be sure that my students don't use AI. My students become so good at AI that they can almost now do anything, make look like they did it. Anything. It's really good, even personal reflections. They're very, very good at that now. And that's where we need a platform where AI manages that learning, and AI also manages how they learn. Yeah, we need that very, very soon, I believe. And then you have these competencies, and I believe there's 5 that we need to learn in the age of AI. So the paradigm shift moves to 5 competencies, which is a growth mindset or entrepreneurial mindset in my case, if you look at the entrepreneurship programs. So for purposeful progress, yeah, for change, dealing with change, and we need a human-centric empathy mind competency. We need to be proficient in the use of AI. We need to have competencies in creative and critical thinking to solve problems. And we need competencies to apply that into the real world for impact. That is the 5 core competencies if you work with AI. And those are our rubrics. And now I'll just show you some more fun stuff. So in our courses, this is Notebook LM. Google, you may have seen this or not. And if you haven't seen it, it can make podcasts out of just about everything. So you upload this paper or you upload all the readings that students need to do. And then you ask Google and turn this into a podcast, and then it does something like this.
So get this, today's deep dive is going to take us straight into the future of learning.
The future of learning.
Specifically, we're going to break down a cutting-edge framework, and it's designed for, get this, entrepreneurship education.
In the age of
it is designed for entrepreneurship, and it goes on like that. And a lot of students love it. They don't do learning. It's all flipped classroom what we do as well. So they need to do the learning before they come to class, right? And they often don't do that. And then on the way to university, they listen to the podcast, and at least they've picked up some stuff. I'm already happy with that, right? I'm quite optimistic. So again, that is one of the ways where we can personalize learning and make it more fun. Another one, I'm not a fan of this. So I uploaded my photo. I asked HiGen, which is another AI that turns you into avatars. And I said to it, read out something we created here, an Innovation Entrepreneurship Academy, and explain what it is, pretending it's me. And it gives me creeps, but anyway.
The Innovation and Entrepreneurship Academy brings together education and research to equip students and researchers with entrepreneurial mindset design science methods and generative AI for impact.
Channel 9, yeah. It's funny, isn't it? So I just put the photo and then gave it the text, and that was it. And you could choose the voice. You can choose out of any voice. And then it does the expressions naturally, does that by itself. So you see now, this is 5, sorry, yes. Imagine this in 2030 or 35, yeah, then you won't be able to see the difference. And I'm not a big fan of that. I think from my students, what I learned, people crave human connection after AI. We crave for it. So I think avatars and all that, we may use them in some situations, which we don't know yet. But I think most people will crave, what I find from my students, they crave human connections. For example, everybody must make a video in my course. It's a problem solution video at the end of the group work. So they have lots of plastic in the river here, and they found a fantastic solution to solve that. And they make 1-minute video presenting that, and they all use AI for it, yeah, because AI is really easy for that. You make any video like with different kind of programs. But then students come to me now, they said last semester, they said to me, all these AI videos, they all look the same, and they really have no soul in it. It's not real, and so we were just going to go out with our mobile phones and just make our own role play videos like we used to do 5 years ago, right? So people engrave, in my view, human connections. And this is then the second part that Simon Biggs wrote. So what we change this need is not just technological, it's pedagogical. And I can't underline that more. It's not technology. AI is pedagogy. AI is how we change, how we behave, how we deal with each other, not technology on its own. And so there you need this, and he wrote almost, I think he read my article, I reckon, because he writes exactly what I wrote in February as well. So, so there's some support coming out now for that approach, I guess, and that's, for me, is very encouraging. So that's the end. I think I did really well. Thank you.
Some prayers up, and if I can have my speakers back, I'll do it. Maybe we put you think of a very personal. You don't want to move. You'd be happy just to sit there. And so thank you for holding. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and also the amazing work you've been doing. Over to questions. Thank you for holding on to them until the end.
Question, Sam. The Google Gemini Pro you're using, is that an agent creator, or is that just the version that comes standard and you upload your rules?
Yeah, it's just the 2.5 Pro model, and all the training is in the prompt stock. That's the
Yeah.
How did you, what was the response from parents around the AI feedback?
Yeah, good question. The only pushback we got was when we first did it, they didn't have any performance descriptors. And so the parent just said, it's a wall of text, hard to actually understand whether they've done a good job or not. And so we added performance descriptors in, and they were like, yeah, great, that's what I want. So that was, one parent out of 7 to 10. Yeah, I think because we were so careful checking. Yeah. If there'd been mistakes, 100% parents would have hated it. I would have hated it, but yeah.
Would you agree that you need to take all the stakeholders on board, which is really that you can't just talk with students or with leadership or whatever. You need to have everybody to understand what you're trying to do, because otherwise you get really confused responses. I find as well, I've learned that too. So you need to be very specific, very clear about what you do and how you do it. And I like that you said it. And you said it as well. Yeah, you tell them what you do, but you need to get students, teachers, leadership, and parents, and governments. Yeah. You need to all get them on board, right? It's 5. Yes, 5 of them.
How do you feel it goes with with handwriting? Do you find it makes mistakes, fills in the gaps for words that it understands, and maybe draws more of an answer than is actually there? And how do you solve that when you go through the feedback that's generated?
Yeah, so earlier models would do that. 2.5 is pretty good, and where it's unsure, it would quote what they've said. So it'll say, "We've said this." You can look at it and go, "It's obviously nonsense." But we've had instances where the handwriting is too messy for us to decipher. We put it through and say, generate a transcript, and it does actually really well. Yeah. And we go, oh, so helpful. This kid used to need a scribe.
Yes.
Now we can actually understand.
Yes.
So it's kind of gone
the other way
further than we expected. Yeah.
How do the kids respond to the feedback from AI? So I've heard quite an AI workshop, like, misuse AI, it's lazy. So kind of, but I still have that vibe where it feels like it's So how does that sort of
Yeah, so with that transparency, we were on the front foot in saying it's not actually saving us that much time. It's the reason we're doing it is because we actually think it's giving you better feedback. And it's taking the kids some time. And sometimes I give them a bit of a choice, and I say, well, when you compare your task before to what you get now, which one do you think is more useful? And my year 9s after this, with this heat of combustion task, which was 2 weeks ago, they said, well, this is more useful.
And I agree. I've used it for feedback as well with all our assignments. I wouldn't be able to do all the marking if I didn't use AI. It saves you half the time. But I think the clarity, to be upfront about it and saying, okay, I want you to use it all, then we're going to use it as well. Right? It has nothing to do with laziness, but you just get so much better feedback if I use AI as a co-creation. I tell my students, I never copy over from AI to you and then leave it like that, right? I'll never do that. I'm still accountable for the feedback. It's not AI's feedback, it's my feedback, but it's co-created with AI. And because of that, it's so well written and it's so detailed and it's really, my students are very happy about it. So I've never heard anybody saying they didn't like that.
Can I just say with that, the transparency is the big thing. And I think using it and showing kids that it's all perfect and they fees and got kids to do it based on the book. Yes, none of those choices are right. And like, oh really? And then get to the end and like, do you know who just made that? Like ChatGPT made it. Like it was made it up. But okay, now take it into a learning process. What is it? And when you're upfront with the students right from the beginning with those things like worksheets, yes, I can make you a worksheet that I can create. This one has differentiation for every student's needs within the class, and I can level it and having that interaction.
I'm going to jump ahead to you now. With what you're doing, using the whole I have to mark everything, do you think that will do away with HSC marking? And because I'm a creative arts teacher as well as a test teacher, and that there's a certain amount of humanness that is needed in marking major projects. But the other bit, they can do that all.
Yeah.
And then that means then that will lead to, like, our subjects are already expensive to mark. Will that lead to then doing away with all the creative subjects?
Well,
Like,
sorry.
I mean, I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah.
I don't think you're jumping that far ahead.
No, I don't think.
No, maybe 2 years
they're
more.
they're already trying to do away with double marking of music, let alone visual arts and tax. I mean, this is scary stuff that the creative thinking subjects are being killed. Sorry.
Yeah, for me, you need to think about a different paradigm. You need to think how you do your classes differently than in the past, right? So this is where you may have to come together with your colleagues and start thinking about this and start saying, okay, well, how can we still teach our students creative thinking while they use AI as well? Right? That is the big question. And what we do is, like I said, we have these really interesting sort of gamified exercises that were created by AI and me together to lead them through a whole process of creative thinking while they use AI at the same time, but they never just copy over. They go to AI to ask one question, then come back, then discuss it in the group, then go back to AI, etc. So there's a whole process of learning that is changing from what it used to be. And that's one really important element. The second thing is that you shine in the classroom. When they will want to talk to you. No students just wants to learn from AI. I don't think that's a reasonable assumption to make. I've never seen anybody in the 2.5 years that says, I just want the AI, I don't want you anymore.
Sorry, and from what Sam said, very much like science-based, factual information. When it comes to that creative side, it's not good at that. It's not at that standard. But also, I don't think it's able to mark that. I honestly don't. I could not use it for English mark. We've played with it, absolutely, but it cannot keep that process the same as human insight does. And that's why we have our filing systems and all those other things. I don't think it's there for large, creative projects or potentially some of those more kind of standard written responses. And when it is, hopefully the HSC counts.
Well, I would say though, it depends on which AI you use. I think some AIs are capable of doing it already. So if you pay for your AIs and pay quite a lot, then they become better and better. And that is something you need to realize as well. It becomes better all the time.
Yeah, I really like to see, and this is controversial too, but AI given more eyes on the classroom, and then using it to assess that experiential.
It's cool.
Training on facial expressions and metacognition, and actually learning habits, so that assessment is not a snapshot in time, but like the year instead of a portfolio, you go, well, what are the learning points for this student? And that's like, imagine getting parents to sign up for that. Yeah. Forget it. But yeah, I know. But I mean, I think
I don't think you're far off though. So
Yeah.
I think that's where we move towards.
We've got a couple more minutes, and also any last questions? I'm just getting last warnings for questions. Yes, sorry.
Just off what you said, this isn't my question, but why can't you do that now? Because you know who has training on facial expressions? You do. Just can you leave that there? But what I wanted to actually ask about was the little almost paradox there that between you two. That you were talking about the need to assess problem solving skills and other behaviours versus no, we need to mark facts. And you were saying you give feedback to your students based off. So do you have a way that you use AI to give feedback on those non-fact-based things, or?
Yeah, it's a long prompt. It's a very long prompt. Very long. It's very complex. Yes, I need to. And another thing on top of that is that in my case, university students do their work at home. Yeah, they don't do the work in the class. So what you say, take home, it's so easy to use AI. So in my case, I also need to train them on how to use AI well. And if they just copied over from AI, I need to also, my prompt needs to address that. So I have a whole set of rules almost that I give to AI and say, okay, if you have the impression that this student has overused AI based on this and this and this and this and this indications, go through this first, and then give me that answer first, and then start marking it. If you have that impression initially, then you should mark it different. So this is a simple example. There's a lot into prompting and getting the AI to do what you want it to do well, consistently. I use Claude for that. I think for me, Claude is way better than every other AI I've used, including Gemini as well. and I instructed in very much detail, and that's a lot of work. So
yeah.
Sorry, I'm just going to take a few. We can have there's snacks there. We can continue the conversations, but I'll just take the questions so we can formally, for those people who might need to rush up.
So I was just going to ask, but obviously AI is integrated into all of the departments, but was that a slow integration, or was it?
No, that was cold turkey, yes.
Yeah.
In 2023 February, and that was very difficult initially. Initially, it was a bit of a disaster. First semester was very hard, but at the same time, the students could completely accept it. I tell them this is an experiment. Nobody else is doing this. We don't know everything yet. We're learning together here. I asked them the first semester. I asked my students at the start of the course. I said, "Who thinks here AI is cheating?" And about 100 out of 100 put their hands up. And then I asked them at the end, "Who still thinks AI is cheating?" There was only one girl put her hand up. And I said, "Oh, why is that?" And she was one of the best students. And she said, I really like using AI and all that, but I just don't like that all the other students, or a lot of the other students, are not as good as I am. So they're catching up. So yes.
Do you have any access to what they're asking and how that guides you?
There is kind of a backdoor that the department have access. We don't have access to that if they are working in a collaborative workspace. And I believe EduChat's going to be available for all New South Wales public schools within the year. It keeps getting pushed back because AI keeps advancing, honestly. They're trying to keep up with it. But and again, it's not perfect. There's lots of other devices that are better than it. But it's a step, and it's something that at least they're allowing us to experiment with.
Okay, so please keep having a conversation. Thank you very much to our speakers. Leah, can you please stand at the back? With all those organisers, our events. And thank you for coming along tonight. Really appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you.